Emil stood amongst the crowd in the funeral. The sun was the bitter yellow smear in the white sky. Some people were crying, some stood still watching the preacher say his final words, waiting for their loved one to descend into the damp earth. Emil didn't cry, nor feel solemn dismay. He was, in fact, smiling, occasionally drinking from a liquor bottle inside his coat pocket. It was his father's funeral, and he couldn't wait to see that motherfucker rot in the yard. He hid his anger beneath the smile, an act he used and perfected. In any awkward or strange situation, he found himself smiling. Smiling because it hid his feelings, smiling because it made things easier to swallow, smiling because it made everything a joke. But Emil found it harder to smile while looking at the casket before him. His liquor bottle was nearly gone. He could feel his brain loosening, melting away the circuits that held him back from doing things he really wanted to do. The preacher stopped reciting his biblical verses and said, in a rather monotone voice, "Would anyone like to say any final words?" In that moment, Emil's world stood still. No one spoke, not even the birds sang their song, nor cars passed by. Emil could hear his heartbeat, ka-thump, ka-thud, ka-thump, ka-thud, ka. Emil lifted his face and saw his reflection within the chrome lining of the casket. His face looked dull and distant. One eye was gray-green and contrasted with his light brown skin, his masculine jawline. The other half of his face was matted in medical gauze, its cloth dirty and aging, cloth he'd worn for months. He did this to me, that motherfucker. He did all those things to me, and I didn't do shit about it. I didn't do anything. Anger welled within him, twisting his face into a mask of rage. Thoughts crept in his mind, thoughts of which he could only wish he could do. Thoughts that would only be real in his dreams. But the thoughts that bound him in reality, thoughts that told him it was not possible, faded. His dreams and reality blurred. It all happened in a matter of seconds. Emil lunged forward, stumbling and pushing the pastor to the ground. He looked at he took the liquor bottle from his pocket and threw it at the casket. The bottle burst and shattered over the polished wood. A roar erupted from the crowd, and Emil's family grabbed him and pulled him back. "Get the fuck off me," he screamed, kicking and throwing his body towards his father's casket. Fuck you, he yelled at the casket, tears spouting from his eyes. With one last lunge, the crowd's grip loosened and Emil kicked the casket. He felt a sharp pain through his leg, but as the crowd got a hold of him, he could see his casket tilt and fall over. His father's body rolled out and onto the grass. Screams and cries from the crowd erupted, but Emil's laughter pierced through the cacophony like a sweet, sweet chime. That evening, Emil sat in his room staring at the blank TV screen. His girlfriend sat behind him on the bed and with the same expression. The car ride home had been silent, and in the silence, Emil knew that it was just another thing that was swept under the rug. No one spoke about drama in his family, and the next day they just pretend nothing happened and life was perfect. Once, when he went in his room after a long hot school day, he found his room a mess. His posters were torn from the walls, his clothes wrapped up in garbage bags. His mother and sister were on the floor, each with a hammer in their hand, and were breaking all of his CDs. Next to them was his PlayStation and video games in pieces. "What the fuck are you doing?" he yelled in horror. "First of all, do not use that language in my house," his mother said. "You're breaking all my stuff," he screamed. "We're cleansing your room," his sister shouted, her eyebrows knitted, eyes leering. "You guys are fucking crazy," he said, looking at them with disbelief. "I'm taking all of my shit." "If you do, you're no longer welcome in this house," his mother said, standing up, chest sticking out with an air of someone doing justice. "Fine, I'm leaving," he said, and began gathering his stuff. His sister was about to say something, but his mother stopped her and shot her a look as if to say, "We're too good for this." They both watched him as he packed his things, looking at him as if he was beneath them. Emil slammed the door behind him when he left. 2 days later, his mother called while he was staying at a friend's. "Hello," he said. "Hi, are you coming home for dinner?" "Are you gonna keep breaking my stuff? What are you talking about?" "Mom, are you coming over for dinner or not? Your grandpa's coming over tonight and he wants to see you." "Mom, why are you acting like..." She hung up. That night, he came home. When he walked in the front door, his mother was sitting on the couch reading the Bible. "Mom," he said. His eyes stayed on the book. "Mom," he said louder. "What, Emil?" she said, snapping the book closed, her lips pressed together in a thin line. "Why are you acting like this?" he asked, as he put his things down and sat next to her on the couch. "Why can't we just talk about this?" "There's nothing to talk about." "See, there you..." "Emil, go to your room," she snapped. "Please, Mom, can we just please talk about this?" he said, putting his hand on hers. "Go to your room." "No, damn it, just talk to me. Just fucking talk to me. That's all I want." "Dear Lord, please help my son in this time of need. Please, Lord, art thou in heaven, please help this." "The Bible's not going to help you, Mom. God can't solve all your problems. Please help me, Lord, and just bring my child. Please help me." "Mom, are you listening to me? You're just like him. Every time I see your face, you remind me of that damn man who cheated on me with some tramp. Can't you just realize I'm trying to help you? Every night I pray that I don't become a damn drunk just like your Hold on. Every night I pray that you don't become a damn drunk just like your father, but you're just like him, Emil. You come home late smelling like booze, you're always gone, you never do anything around the house. You're a damn drunk, Emil. You're just like your damn father. At that moment, Emil took his mother by the shoulders and slammed her against the wall, shaking her and yelling at her in inarticulate words. Or he would have, until he thought about all the times his father did that to his mother. So he stood quiet, apologized to his crazed mother, and went to his room. Are you okay? His girlfriend said, bringing him back to reality. He looked beside him. She was still wearing her black dress. It flowed down her body in tiny waves. I'm fine, he lied, looking down. I'm here for you, she said, putting her hand on his. He couldn't help but give in to her. She made him feel safe. She accepted him. I just hate how my family pretends that nothing happened, he said. I mean, yeah, I did what I did, but I was so pissed off at him and what he did to my older sister. My childhood just came back to me, and I remember how he treated us. And even to his death, he didn't apologize to what he did to my sister. There was a long pause. He could hear his mother washing dishes in the kitchen. I think you need to let it go, she said. Not for him, but for you. You deserve to have some peace of mind. Emil looked at her for a second. Her expression was one he was familiar with. Her eyebrows knitted in a solemn focus, and her eyes held a genuine concern. He took a deep breath and looked down at his hands. Wasn't she right, he thought? He's dead. It's not like you can tell him anything now. It's been so long since his childhood. There was no point in harboring hatred for his father, and he couldn't help himself. But he couldn't help himself. There were too many things that were not said during those years, too many wrongs not righted. At least he got to defile his dead body, he thought. He could see his father's body on the wet grass, limp and gone. The mortician tried to cover up the cancer, but he could see it. This made him smile. Well, I can't do anything now. He's dead, he said, looking up at his girlfriend with a wan smile. She returned the smile. For a second, she saw something in his eyes, something eerie like the blank eyes of a mask, fixed in a position, emerging within the darkness. Then it vanished, gone as soon as it came. That night, Emil dreamt of a memory he hadn't visited since he was a child. It was a sweltering summer day, but now as the evening arrived, the heat settled to a dull orange glow against the horizon. His father sat on his chair on the back porch, drinking a toddy when Emil asked him, Papa, what does Frenching mean? This strange question produced itself when a kid named Eddie Ribson told him that his parents caught his older sister Frenching a guy behind his dumpster. Emil asked him, what does Frenching mean? And Eddie replied, I heard from Donnie Akers, it's when a guy and a girl swaps nails in the mouth, sometimes even puts salt on them. Girls, huh? Emil didn't believe this for a couple of reasons, but mostly because Donnie Akers was weird. He was always by himself at recess, talking to himself and picking his nose. Lisa Gonzalez even told him once, when they were decorating eggs for Easter, that he saved his boogers in a pencil box and eats them when no one's looking. Emil was curious, and he couldn't believe someone as weird as Donnie Akers, so he decided to ask his papa. Come here, boy, his father said, putting the beer down on the table next to him. Emil was walking over when his father grabbed him, crushing his face against Emil's. Emil could feel his father's hard, callous hands squeezing the back of his neck, forcing him to open his mouth. Emil refused, locking his lips tight until he was struck in the ribs. His father's tongue jabbed in and out of the boy's mouth. At once, the bitter stench of beer invaded his senses and reached inside his nostrils, causing him to choke. Emil started to feel something hard against his leg when his father let go and shoved him aside and slapped him. Emil slammed into a nearby pillar and fell to the floor. He looked up at his father, his eyes wide and terrified. He started to scramble away when his father grabbed him by the shirt and picked him up. His father took out a pocket knife and pressed it against his face. Don't you ever tell anyone or I'll kill you. He pressed the blade deeper into his cheek. He released the blade and dragged the point down to his crotch and felt the weight of him on his knife rise and fall. You'll be a good boy, won't you? Yeah, Emil began, but his sobs were too much now. Won't you, his father said, sliding the knife under his shirt and pressing it against his stomach. Yeah, Emil hiccuped, his face wet, snot running down his nose and gathering on his upper lip. Won't you, his father yelled, dragging the blade down his stomach. Won't you? He yelled, his eyes wide and insane. Yeah, Emil struggled back his tears. He could feel warm blood trailing down his stomach. Yes, Papa, yes, I'll be a good boy. I'll do anything, Papa. Just please don't kill me. Please don't kill. His father stopped him and he fell to the floor, his head banging on the cement. For a second, the world went black and red flowers bloomed in his eyes. Emil's left cheekbone swelled, his eye shut, and was now turning a sickly purple color. Tell your mother you fell, his father's last words echoing. The world swooned and blurred out of focus. Emil awoke, drenched in sweat. He saw hot tears in his eyes. His father's sickening breath was still in his mouth when he stopped and realized it was his own. just like your damn father. Emil's vision whirled, something in his stomach clenched and loosened, making its way up. Before he knew what he was doing, Emil staggered to the bathroom and vomited in the toilet. Between each hot spew, he could hear himself thinking, yes, Papa, yes, Papa, yes, Papa.